Hello and welcome to My Opinion Archive. In today's video I would like to explore the Prime Directive from Star Trek and give you my view on whether or not it's actually an ethical practice. This video is going to contain small spoilers from the different Star Trek series, but most of these hypothetical ideas I'm going to talk about are mainly my own. They might be inspired by things I've seen in the show without me really realizing it, but I won't be telling you the plot of entire episodes. So to figure out whether or not the Prime Directive is ethical by my viewpoint, I'm going to first off describe what the Prime Directive exactly is, in case you don't know it. And I'm going to talk about the good stuff that the Prime Directive does and the bad stuff, and then I'm going to give you my overall impression on whether or not I think that the Prime Directive is actually a good thing. So if you've seen Star Trek, you're probably already familiar with the Prime Directive. But in case someone clicks on this video and doesn't know it, then the Prime Directive is the most important law in Starfleet, the rule that they always have to abide by, and that all other Starfleet regulations and rules are sort of supposed to abide by. An interesting thing I discovered while researching for this video is that apparently we haven't actually have the Prime Directive explained in exact words. We haven't seen the exact wording of the Prime Directive. We only heard it explained by captains and what it affects. But a non-canon explanation for the Prime Directive is as follows. The Prime Directive prohibits Starfleet personnel and spacecraft from interfering in the normal development of any society and mandate that any Starfleet vessel or crew members is expendable to prevent violation of this rule. In simpler terms, this means that Starfleet personnel are not allowed to interfere with the development of cultures or affect it in any way so that it changes what would normally happen in its history and its culture. So now I'm going to come up with some good things that the Prime Directive either prevents or helps achieve. The first good thing that the Prime Directive does is that it prevents higher cultures, for instance the Federation, from imposing their views or siding with people who have similar views to them in other cultures that aren't as developed, and prevents them from effectively making miniature federations, states that simply has the same ideals as them. Along the same lines, it also prevents enslavement of other cultures and creation of large empires where a lot of cultures are simply subjects because they either wasn't as developed or didn't have the technology to fight back, which of course is very easy to do if you got spaceships and another planet is in the industrial era, then it's very easy to take them over. Another thing that the Prime Directive prevents is that a culture who is in the middle of developing gets access to knowledge or history from another planet. The problem with this is that they could start adapting ideas and ideologies that wasn't really a part of their history and might not ever have occurred. For instance, in one of the episodes in the original Star Trek series, there's a planet where the inhabitants become Nazis because of if I remember correctly, a rogue Starfleet captain who tries to input these ideas into them because he believed that the efficiency of the Nazis could be useful and that he could change it so it didn't become oppressive. This is of course very, very dangerous because an underdeveloped culture might not have the same knowledge to figure out what is right or what is wrong, or might see some benefits in history from another culture that they admire, and this can lead to them adapting ideas that they wouldn't have thought of themselves. The next good thing I'm going to talk about is that, of course, the Prime Directive prevents the use of technology. You can't give technology to underdeveloped cultures or to other cultures to interfere with their development. And this is very good because it prevents oppressive or unwanted rulers on other worlds from getting access to advanced technology and effectively staying in power because some other world decided that these guys could be useful, or maybe they could make money or get precious resources out of it. And that's where the Prime Directive becomes especially important, I think, because it's very easy for a greedy society with advanced technology to say, oh, let's give these guys some advanced weapons so he can stay in power, because what does it matter for us whether or not he is in power, even if his own people doesn't want him there? This part of the Prime Directive also prevents worlds from getting their hands on technology or knowledge that they aren't ready for, and may end up harming themselves or their planet, or potentially their culture, if they get access to technology that they don't truly understand, or maybe aren't culturally developed to be able to use yet. Or if they, let's say, get the knowledge that there exist other planets and aliens, then it might change their culture, their religions, or their governmental structure, or the focus of their culture, because they start to want to meet other aliens they might otherwise have thought about exploring space. It could also be a problem because they might experience problems on their planet, and because they know aliens exist, they might start looking for them as a solution rather than figure it out on their own. An overall thing I think is very good that the Prime Directive prevents is chaos on other planets. It prevents lower developed cultures from meeting something higher, and if they are very tribal-like, they might start to venerate them and see these other cultures as gods. And that can be very, very dangerous, especially if the other culture decides to use this to their advantage to get gifts or raw materials that this world might not know is important to them. It also prevents chaos on worlds that are slightly developed, worlds that might be in the industrial era or something like that, where if aliens start to show up, they might panic. They might go into some sort of, we need to figure out a way to destroy these aliens, or they might really become very focused on defending themselves against this culture or this thing they doesn't understand. So that's a part I think is really good about the Prime Directive, because in Star Trek there's a lot of worlds that are developed on different points. Some of them are tribal, and some of them have technology to explore space. For instance, satellites, but they don't have starships to travel it. So I think it's a very, very good thing that the Prime Directive prevents this particular thing of basically using your superior technology or accidentally throwing a world into chaos, or potentially into a religious pursuit of your species. Now, this was some of the good things that the Prime Directive does, and these are some of the reasons why it of course exists in Star Trek. But some of the things we sort of rarely get to see, but is explored in the show, is the bad side of the Prime Directive, and I'm now going to talk about some of the drawbacks of the Prime Directive and what it can mean for other cultures and worlds. Now, some of these scenarios might be a bit subjective, but that's the interesting part about it. It's why I made this entire video, to think about, does it actually make it right to interfere in a world's development, even if it means its destruction, for instance. So one of the drawbacks of the Prime Directive is that it can prevent Starfleet or another civilization with a similar directive from helping a world or people who might destroy themselves if they, for instance, have developed nuclear technology, nuclear bombs and stuff like that. Starfleet might be able to prevent a war because they have the technology or the knowledge to solve whatever the war is about. If it's a resource war where the planet doesn't have that many resources, then Starfleet could, for instance, come down and say, hey, we got a mining world not that far from here, and we can teach you how to create starships to get there, and you don't have to fight over all of this. And of course, many people would agree that it is a good thing to prevent war and death and destruction of an entire planet and entire civilization. But the question is it correct to go in and dictate how they should act or tell them about the planets and aliens and societies if they aren't ready for that kind of information? Along those lines, we also have the problem of diseases and epidemics on worlds with less developed medical knowledge or medical technology that the Federation might be able to easily cure, or these people might use technology that they haven't yet realized actually harm them or the world, but the Federation might have discovered or worked with similar technology and could easily help them prevent lots of death and potentially their entire civilization being destroyed. Another thing the Prime Directive can prevent is the Starfleet's capability to help worlds that might go extinct due to natural disasters. There might be volcanoes or earthquakes and stuff that this civilization just isn't capable of helping with, and they might not be developed enough for Starfleet to bend the rules and take contact yet. Which can, of course, be very problematic because Starfleet could easily go down and maybe evacuate a planet who is about to be destroyed or become uninhabitable and help all the people and move them to another safe area, another safe planet where they can develop their new culture. And that is, of course, what some might see as, well, a problem, that we have the means to help this planet, so why shouldn't we? Why should we let them get destroyed when we can help? But of course, the Prime Directive prevents you from helping them because it would change their culture, even if their culture would be destroyed without your help. Another dilemma that has come up during the show is, what do you do when a civilization oppresses parts of its population, or if there are multiple sentient species? What do you do if one of them is being oppressed just because that's how the culture is? This is one of the harder topics because it's very subjective. Because from one culture's standpoint, what is being done is wrong and shouldn't be happening and is very problematic, but the culture that practices this oppression might see it as the correct thing to do, might have a lot of history and reasoning for doing so, and changing or forcing them to change their ways could be considered wrong. That's of course why the Prime Directive is in the first place installed, to prevent Starfleet from just going in and saying, hey, you can't do that. But it, of course, is morally hard to justify letting an entire group of people being knowingly oppressed when you could stop it, or maybe when you could explain why it shouldn't be done through knowledge that you can find through your technology that this world doesn't have. An example we see of this in Star Trek is one where we aren't talking about a underdeveloped culture, but a place where the Prime Directive also is involved is when it's between cultures. So, for instance, even although a world might be fully developed and be aware of aliens, you can't still go in and just kill the leader because you don't like him. The example is the Bajorans. This is a people who have been oppressed and attacked by a neighboring species called the Cardassians. And this is, of course, very problematic because Starfleet can't get involved and help them because the Prime Directive prevents them from interfering in eternal Cardassian matters. Now, this one has a lot of explanation behind it, a lot of history, so it might not just be because of the Prime Directive, but the idea still stands that this is the excuse being used. You hide behind the Prime Directive and basically say, but we can't help you. And that's where the Prime Directive starts to become a problem for many people, because why wouldn't you help someone being attacked? Why wouldn't you help a people who are going to be enslaved by another species against their will. Now I'm going to come with a very interesting example from the show Star Trek Voyager, where it sort of turned around because the Federation, Starship Voyager, meets a world with its own sort of Prime Directive, which prevents them from sharing technology. And this one, I really like this episode because Janeway says it's Janeway who's the captain of the ship. It's like, it's very ironic because for once they are actually on the other side of the Prime Directive. What she says is one of the things that I really liked, is that the Federation have been asked to help or been able to help a lot of times, but for once they are the ones experiencing a world that says they can't. And I think it's very interesting because she actually says it herself. The Federation has been able to help a lot of people, but has been unable due to the Prime Directive. And for once, she can finally feel how that is. How you know that there's someone out there who can help you with a problem, but their laws prevents them from it. And it must be really annoying for the other people, those people who know that there's help to be found, but some silly rule prevents them from doing so. Now, my last example is a bit of a stretch, it's a bit out there, and I'm not exactly sure how it would work in the Star Trek universe. But a thing I thought about was, what if a world develops technology on its own that is incompatible with the wider galaxy? What if they have communication systems that allows them to contact spaceships, but whatever way they're using to send this message just can't be picked up by Starfleet ships? Then Starfleet might know that the world exists, they might know that the technology is there, they might know that this world could be brought into the fold, so to speak, become a part of the Federation, or at least the wider galaxy. But because their technology is developed in a way that they don't know aliens exist, can they actually take contact with them? See, I think the Prime Directive would prevent them from doing so. But in this case, this world could become very isolated and start to think that aliens doesn't exist because they send out all these messages and no one responds. As I said, this was a very big stretch, but I just thought it would be an interesting idea to explore a world that might have the knowledge and the technology, but it simply wasn't compatible. Again, I'm not sure if the Prime Directive would prevent them from contacting them in this particular case, but I just thought it was interesting. If there's any Star Trek fans out there who have an opinion about this, what do you think? Do you think the Prime Directive would prevent a Starfleet captain from contacting such a world who could become part of the galaxy, but the technology simply isn't compatible, so they don't know aliens exist? I hope you have enjoyed this little exploration of hypothetical scenarios where the Prime Directive either does something good or bad. My verdict, what I think about the Prime Directive, is that 9 times out of 10, I think it's ethical, I think it's the right thing to do, I think it's a good thing to follow. But I can understand how it would be very hard to always follow it. And I think the Prime Directive can be accused of being very unethical, because it can lead to a lot of unnecessary deaths. But I think it is a good thing to have. I think that the Prime Directive is a thing that Starfleet should continue to have and should follow, because it prevents so many also very problematic scenarios. As always, this has been my opinion archive. I hope you liked the video, and if you have an opinion about the Prime Directive, if you think it's unethical, or if you think it is ethical, whatever you think, just tell me about it. I would like to hear your opinion about this.